In this video I'm going to be covering the true cost of PvM in RuneScape 3. I'll be covering augmented gear, degrading gear, consumables, def, and so on. So when you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. I wanted to make this video because I sometimes get bashed for using lower tier armor or lower tier potions during PvM. I even get bashed if I don't want to extend my aura and instead use my resets after the 30 minutes of my Zerk aura has ended, which by the way is completely free and saves you 480k, which you'll see in this video. Most of the time when I PvM I don't even turn my scrimshaws on because they're so expensive to use per hour. Again, another thing I'd like to cover in this video. Now you can say that if you're using higher tier potions, higher tier armor, and just better items overall, which do cost more, you'll get more kills per hour leading into more GP per hour. And yes, that is technically true. Let's take a easy example. We have a Holy Overload and the best overload being the Elder Overload Salve. Now these overloads are extremely expensive per hour compared to the Holy Overload. Let's assume the Elder Overload Salve is 5% better, meaning your kill times will be 5% faster. As an example, the average boss we are killing takes 60 seconds to kill, meaning if you kill it 5% faster, in an hour you'll be able to get 3 more kills. And let's say that boss is 100k on average per kill, that means 300k more profit per hour. Then if you subtract the profit you're getting per hour from the increased cost of the Elder Overload Salve when compared to the Holy Overload, you get a net profit of 92k per hour more. So when you're comparing items, armor, or things that boost your damage and accuracy, you have to think about this principle. Sometimes better armor might be more expensive per hour, but it outweighs the cost because you're getting more money per hour in terms of profit as well, meaning your net profit is higher. This is obviously just an example and it depends on various factors, what you're killing, what boss you're killing, what the average loot per kill is. But just think about this when you're considering if something cheaper might be better or worse. Now dying obviously sucks. No one likes to die without their ring of death on, which is why if your death is over 800k, you want to be using a ring of death so that you can save money when you die during PvM or even during Slayer. If you die, assuming your ring of death is equipped, which sometimes it isn't, you will lose 15% charge on the ring. One Onyx charges the ring with 50% charge, meaning you can die 3.33 times per Onyx. A death will set you back 800k currently. Now I'll be using this amount in the end or final calculation, but I assume a player dies once per hour on average in RuneScape when PvMing. Even if you're experienced, you still die every now and then, and if you're learning a boss, you die very, very often. So, once per hour, could vary a lot, doesn't matter, once per hour. Now let's talk about the most commonly used consumables in PvM, because you will be surprised at how much they cost per hour to use. I made an overview in Google Spreadsheets for you guys to see, which I'll show you on screen now. Now the cost per hour varies a lot, obviously, because some players use more food per hour than others. Just take these numbers with a grain of salt. If you're a different type of PvMer or a different type of player, or you're doing a different boss, these numbers may go up and down drastically. But these numbers should give you a good idea of what it costs to PvM per hour. Just look at how expensive food is, for example. You could easily be losing 200 to 600k per hour simply by using food. If you're using sourdough and brews and stuff as well, that number goes even higher. It's actually very surprising at how expensive these items are. Now sometimes my clannies bash me for the fact that I don't extend my auras. As you can see, it costs 480,000 GP to extend your aura, your Zerk aura, so Maniacal, Reckless, and Berserker, to extend it to 100%, to extend it to 1 hour. Because I only PvM 1 hour a day usually, I just reset it. Now if you're PvMing for multiple hours, I understand that you're going to be extending and resetting the auras that way, but still, I save 480k every time I do that. If I were to PvM 1 hour every day, that's 175.2 million GP, assuming the prices of Viswax don't change during that time, saved per year. That's ridiculous. So, clannies, if you're watching this, please stop bashing me for not extending my auras. I'm trying to save money. Now, the cost per hour of the 4 example scrimshaws I grabbed on this sheet aren't really that interesting. They last for 3 hours, so you divide the cost by 3, and there you go. Now, as for familiars, it's pretty interesting to see how expensive a Ripper Demon plus 200 scrolls if you're not, spamming the ability, because otherwise it's going to be way higher, is 920k GP per hour to use. That's very, very expensive. That being said, the Ripper Demon is very powerful, so it does make sense for high tier PvM, or speed kills. And don't forget the principle of more kills per hour means more money per hour and possibly more net profit. Keep that in mind. Another interesting thing is the cost of Grimoire pages. Now they are very expensive. They last for 45 minutes and they set you back almost 5 million GP per hour in terms of costs. Unless you're doing it at Solak, of course, then you don't use any charges and it's completely for free. This is why most of the time people only activate their Grimoire during a boss fight and they deactivate it afterwards, or they only use it for speed kills because of the extremely high running costs. Next up is the cost of augmented equipment. Now to keep it simple, I use the highest item level, which is 19 or 20, reduction level 9, which is a 105 invention requirement, and the 99 skill K perk, which also reduces the charge drain rate. Now you can see the drain per second, per hour, and how many charges used per hour, but what you should really care about is the red text. The cost per hour of using augmented equipment at this level, 105 invention. Now as you can see, the cost is relatively expensive. Except for tier 90 and tier 92 armor, because when you augment this gear, you use divine charges to augment it, and then it no longer uses charge. Just have a look at this clip on screen. Now as for weapons, that is not the case. The tier 90 weapon, for example, uses around 389k worth of divine charges every hour, assuming you are in combat constantly. Now the cost of a tier 90 that isn't augmented is only 136k per hour at 99 smithing if you repair it at your armor stand in your player-owned house. That's significantly less. However, you do not ever not want to augment your equipment, especially as a high level player. Now you might be wondering, what is the actual cost of Hydrix jewelry per hour, or the Essence of Finality necklace, or augmented custom fitted trim masterwork, elite serenic, elite tectonic, regular masterwork, and so on? Well, look at the images on screen. You're going to be seeing the full repair cost, which is usually a piece of equipment, patches and divine charges. Now, depending on how many hits you take in combat, the GP per hour you lose can be much higher because of more hits equals more charges lost. Now, the GP per hour average you can see for each of the pieces of equipment is the most accurate representation of these items and their cost per hour. Depending on the boss or creatures you are killing, this can go up or down. So again, the average is the most accurate representation and is the one I'll be using in my final calculation to show you the true cost of PvM with one of my own setups. Keep in mind we're talking about the effective charges here. Custom fit trim masterwork lasts twice as long as regular masterwork, and so the GP per hour cost is halved when compared to trim masterwork that isn't custom fitted. An example you don't see on here, which is actually pretty interesting, is the Zarite bow, which doesn't degrade with charges, but each auto attack uses a charge instead, meaning the Zarite bow on augmented can pretty much last you forever. To finish off the video, I want to give one big example of my high level melee setup. Keep in mind it can become even more expensive with even more expensive things. There we go, 6.2 million GP for my high level melee setup. If I extend my aura, I use Vuln bombs, as many as I showed in the example. I use a scrimshaw vampirism, alloy armor spikes, my tier 92, lots of food per hour, sourdough and brews, super restores, and so on. That is a lot of money going down the drain if you aren't making a lot of profit. Now, given I usually don't use that scrimshaw vampirism unless I really need it, for example with the ambassador, and I don't really extend my aura, so it's truly 4.4 million GP per hour. That's still a lot of money lost. For example, I made 7.5 million GP per hour on average from my loot from 10 hours of Group Elite Dungeon 3. That's without any drops though. If I were to get a drop, it was 15 to 28 million GP per hour, which means you can really lose that 4.4 mil. That's absolutely no problem. This is why I sometimes use cheaper items or try to save money when PvMing, because the true cost of PvM, especially endgame, is extremely high. Though, remember that first principle I said, sometimes higher damage and higher accuracy at a higher cost can net you more profit overall. In addition to that, you need to think of ease of use or ease of PvM. With higher tier gear and armor, which admittedly is more expensive per hour in terms of running costs, you can die less, which can lead to saving money. That's also something you need to keep in mind. But yeah, there are just too many variables to make an accurate calculation, but this is a good example and good representation of the cost of PvM. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it interesting. If you did, feel free to leave a like down below and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.